Are you Bonnie?
Bonnie.
This is Bonnie today. And this is Bonnie 20 years ago when she was von Braun's NASA secretary. Together we walk over to the library where she keeps her personal collection of von Braun memorabilia.
This is Mrs. von Braun, Dr. von Braun, and this is me. This is the exploration of Mars. I typed this manuscript back in the early 50s for Dr. von Braun to Bonnie Holmes. They say we have hitched our wagon to a star, but say, isn't that road bumpy? Affectionately, Wernher von Braun. Looking back, I guess you would say he was handsome. I read an article recently that said Wernher von Braun with his movie star good looks. It never occurred to me that he had movie star good looks, but looking back at some of these pictures, I guess he did.
He's a very handsome man. Were you ever tempted to have an affair with him?
Oh, no, we didn't have time to even think about it. But he was a married man and I was a married woman, and no, it never occurred to me. There's Dr. von Braun and President Johnson. Here's a good picture of President Kennedy and Dr. von Braun. Liked President Kennedy very much. He admired him. In fact, he had an invitation, he and Mrs. von Braun had an invitation to join them for dinner. The dinner was supposed to be the day after he was buried. Everybody knew what that big B was. Anyone who got a note that had that B on it knew automatically that that was from Dr. von Braun. Everybody recognized that.
Later on, I discovered von Braun's initial on this Nazi document, which directly ties him to the management of slave labor during World War II. His full signature can be found on this Nazi document, provided to me by the German government, in which he requests labor, including prisoners, for his rocket factory in central Germany. And finally, I found Wernher's signature on this 1969 NASA letter, sent to an official 2 weeks after the Apollo mission, in which he admits being a member of Hitler's SS. And to quote him, "I would appreciate it if you kept this information to yourself, as I think it could only harm my work at NASA if all this were given undue publicity." The Nazi program occurred in two places: development on the Baltic coast at Peenemünde, and manufacturing at the Metalwork rocket factory here in central Germany. Inside these hills, in giant underground tunnels, 10,000 slaves worked at once building von Braun's V-2 rockets. Over 60,000 slaves passed through these tunnels. 20,000 of them died here. This is actual footage of the rocket workers, shot by the United States Army in 1945.
This document implicates von Braun in the movement of concentration camp labor from Buchenwald to Dora.
Mike Neufeld is the curator of World War II history at the Smithsonian.
You can see on it his signature initial B in his characteristic hand. In the last paragraph of the document, he talks about getting certain privileges granted to this French physics professor, such as wearing civilian clothes instead of prisoner uniform, in order to increase his enthusiasm for doing independent work. By the fact that he was in Buchenwald and talked to the camp commandant implicates him in the use of concentration camp labor in a way that no other existing document does.
Nazis building our moon spaceship? I had never heard of anything like this before.
Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
Hi, very good. And you?
Great.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Come on in.
Sure.
Alex Baum was a slave at the rocket factory and amazingly enough survived, even after being forced to actually dig these huge tunnels.
We never saw daylight till the tunnel was finished and they brought us up. The first time we went out of the tunnel, we were like a bunch of blind men. We couldn't even see because we never had seen light for months and months and months. I'll go get my stuff for you. I'm gonna go This is my number in Buchenwald und Dora.
And because they didn't think you were Jewish, you did not have a tattoo. Instead, you had
No,
a patch.
that's right, yeah,
If you were Jewish, it would have been tattooed.
tattooed.
Did you ever see Wernher von Braun at the rocket camp?
Yes, we all saw. I mean, anybody who was at the rocking camp saw von Braun, we saw Himmler, we even saw Goering in Peenemünde. That's the only time I saw him there. They used to hang 5 people a day in the entrance of the tunnel. I mean, who wants to see thousands of bodies, skeleton? I mean, that's all we were, skeleton bodies. They didn't bother burying or anything. Like I say, you become bestial. It's like the president of a big corporation not being punished if slave labor is working in their factory.
I nominated him for the International Boss of the Year, and he won it. Because he was truly the Boss of the Year.
It's like a mass murder letting him loose because he invented something. You wouldn't do that in this country. You would still be in jail. You would still be. So, what can you do?
What would have happened to Wernher von Braun if he were still alive today? Behind armed guards work America's Nazi hunters, the United States Justice Department's criminal division.
Some of the key individuals responsible for the great accomplishment of Apollo 11, the landing of human beings on the moon, were deeply involved in Nazi crimes during World War II. This isn't just guilt by association. It's not just that some of them were in the SS or the Nazi Party. They were personally complicit in Nazi crimes.
Arthur Rudolph was Wernher von Braun's head of rocket manufacturing under both Adolf Hitler and John F. Kennedy. The Justice Department brought war crime charges against him.
But Rudolph was very much a de facto deportation. He was removed unceremoniously from the United States, and the Justice Department exposed him for what he was.
Which was?
Which was a Nazi criminal. Unfortunately, von Braun died before the U.S. government, belatedly in 1979, created this office and seriously undertook to investigate Nazis living in the United States. Had he still been alive, there is no doubt that he would have become a major subject of federal investigation.
How does all this fit into my proving the moon landing was real? On one hand, von Braun may have known that he would face criminal charges if he lost his usefulness to the United States government. That would explain the motive to fake a moon landing. But on the other hand, maybe he really was developing a moon rocket, and that's why the United States government continued to cover up his Nazi criminal past. In a way, our country's disregard for his Nazi crimes helps me prove we did go to the moon. Next stop is Houston, Texas, home to Mission Control.
Fire rages out of control in South Houston.
And history or hoax, one man says he knows the truth.
Now, 11 News at 6.
You can always trust local news to cover the important stories. CBS decides to do one on me.
5% of Americans currently don't believe we went to the moon.
It's a part of history that the whole world witnessed almost 30 years ago. But did it really happen?